So this poll came out from ABC a couple weeks ago now that essentially said no one is excited about voting for Joe Biden. No one is excited about him, not even among the ranks of the Democrats. Well, okay, maybe no one is a slight exaggeration, but only 24% of his supporters are really over the moon excited about voting for Joe Biden, compared to 53% of supporters that are really excited about voting for Donald Trump. Now, that might seem to be a problem on its own, but then we add in this stat that says 15% of Bernie Sanders supporters would choose Trump over Biden in November. So they've got a little bit of a problem on their hands, right? And I think that was pretty reflective of the fact that right now, as I'm filming this on Twitter, this "why I'm not voting for Joe" hashtag is trending. And oh man, like there's gold in this hashtag, and I've saved you the work. I've gone through the hashtag. I've identified some particularly good tweets for us to be able to take a look at and respond to, but trust me, this hashtag basically made my afternoon. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what people are saying and why they're not going to be supporting Joe Biden. But listen, folks, if you like the content that I'm putting on here, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you think you're already subscribed, please make sure just to give that a little double check just to make sure you are still subscribed, because I've been hearing from more people that I can count on both of my hands that YouTube is mystically unsubscribing them from my channel. Now, subscribing is great, giving a thumbs up is great, sharing the video is great. Other ways that you can support what I'm doing is to head over to drcarlin.com. You can do lots of stuff there. You can get on my mailing list. You can check out this merchandise store that I've just launched. I've got a couple things in there now. I'm going to be putting more stuff in it, but I think what I've got in there now is pretty fun. You can also join my Subscribe Star. Now, Subscribe Star is a monthly contribution to really support the content that I'm doing, and as a part of that, every single person who gives to my Subscribe Star gets a shout out in one of my videos. So today, I have to give a couple shout outs to new subscribers that I have. I have to give a shout out to Nella, to Steven, to Sam, and to JJB. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. Listen, folks, I have a little bit of a challenge going on my Subscribe Star where if we can get up to $2,000 in monthly donations, I will do what many of you have been asking me to do, which is to launch a podcast. So if you want to see that happen, rather than me doing these kind of off-the-cuff videos and bring in more people to talk to and do more interviews and stuff like that, please make sure, contribute if you can. I know times are tight and I don't want you to give to me if you're struggling, but if you have the resources and you're so inclined, I'm very, very, very grateful for your support. But let's get back to the good stuff, shall we? Let's talk about some of the tweets that are in this "why I'm not voting for Joe" hashtag. Because listen, there is absolute gold here. I love this one. I love this one firstly because look at this video of like all of Hillary's supporters crying on the election. And it says, "For 4 years, we've been blamed for Hillary's loss. She was a terrible candidate and Biden is even worse than she is. You can start crying now." I think that's a really astute point. How about this one? "Joe Biden has been corrupt since before most of us were born. He is sleazier and more dishonest than Trump. He's been playing the character middle-class Joe for decades. He is no friend to the American worker." Now, I actually think there was a time in which Joe Biden was a friend to the American worker, so I'm not necessarily totally on board with this, but when you're getting in fights with union auto workers in like with cameras obviously on you, like I just don't know if you can still say that you are a friend of the American worker. And when you got Claire McCaskill going on MSNBC and saying things like, well, we don't need to try to win the unions anyway because they're going to vote for Trump. Yes, that literally happened. I saw that happen live on MSNBC. Then you can't really make the case that Joe Biden is the candidate for working class America any longer. How about this one? Analyst Lawrence, our friend Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC, explains that the Democratic Party will ignore the left as long as the left is not seriously willing to withhold our votes if the party doesn't give us major platform concessions. And if you go watch this video, and I'll actually link this tweet in the description below so you can go watch this video. This is literally Lawrence O'Donnell, a younger looking Lawrence O'Donnell than we see now, explaining that the way to get the attention of the Democratic Party is to withhold votes, people. That one didn't age well, did it, Lawrence? How about this one? Many of us, for the same reason, many of the same reasons why I wouldn't vote for Bush. Biden pinned a medal on Bush, strongly supported his war and his buddies with the same old oil bigwigs who supported Bush. And as we know, Donald Trump was not in favor of the war. How about this one? Really? Do I have to explain the obvious? Okay. How the Democratic candidates plan to convince voters in the general. Bernie Sanders, vote for me because I will fight for Medicaid for all, legalization of marijuana, ending endless wars, free college tuitions, Green New Deal, a wealth tax. Joe Biden, vote for me because I'm not Trump. You know, I was thinking about this the other day, and I couldn't actually name any of Joe Biden's policy positions. I really couldn't. Listen, I've been paying attention. I've watched every single debate with him in it. Like, I really have no idea what Joe Biden stands for that is not, I'm not Donald Trump. I know what Bernie Sanders stands for. Bernie Sanders is incredibly consistent. He's been consistent his entire life. Everyone knows what Bernie stands for. Medicaid for all, Medicaid for all, Medicaid for all. Like, everyone knows what he stands for. And all the other stuff too, but that's his big one. Joe Biden, I literally have no idea other than I'm not Trump and we should go back to the old days of Obama. I have no clue what the dude wants. I'm not voting for Joe because you have to support Joe Biden so we can move him to the left. And we all know what happens every time Charlie Brown goes to kick the football. Lucy moves it out of the way and he goes flying and he lands on his back. Exactly. How about this one? Because I will be voting for Vermin Supreme instead. Now, as a New Hampshireite who has met Vermin on several occasions wearing his famous boot, I fully support this. I'm not voting for him myself, but you know, you gotta love Vermin. Come on. I sucked it up and fell in line in 2016, and liberals spent 4 years blaming me for Trump anyway. Why I'm not voting for Biden? How about this one? Said he was running for Senate and not president. Said his son was U.S. Attorney General when he wasn't. Mistaked his wife for his sisters. Called the coronavirus the SARS virus during a debate. He is not mentally fit to be president. I feel ya, RD. I feel ya, because listen, man, after my Trump rally article went out, a lot of people asked me, they were like, you know, would you vote for Trump? Would you vote for Trump? And I kind of had like maybe in the back of my head, but I didn't really think I was going to go there. I really didn't. Believe it if you want, but I really didn't. I was like, you know, I still thought I'd probably vote for the Democrat. And then they go and nominate a guy who's in obvious cognitive decline. And it's just like, this is what you want me to choose? Like, no, man. Like, why? Joe Biden was propped up by the mainstream media and the DNC. All candidates dropped out to throw their support to him, knowing he's an awful candidate. I will not allow the Democratic Party to shove a segregationist and an alleged rapist down my throat. And yes, I mean, that really made me angry too. The way they coordinated this dropout of all the candidates before Super Tuesday, which was obviously coordinated. I'm sorry. I'm not one of those people saying like they changed votes or anything like that. That's stupid. But they obviously coordinated this to throw their weight behind Joe Biden to stop Bernie. That was their only mission, was to stop Bernie Sanders. They should have just let it play out. Donald Trump is president today because the Republicans did not do that in 2016. That's literally why he's president. Because you had all these candidates running and all of the other candidates split the vote, and Donald Trump had his core base of supporters. That's how he won. Bernie was on track to do exactly the same thing. And I think if the DNC had just let it play out, they would be in a much stronger position to actually win in November, even though they obviously don't want Bernie to win, is the moral of the story. They prefer Trump win over Bernie. Because he's a serial liar, a warmonger, votes GOP, has been credibly accused of rape, didn't get the nomination legitimately, and is a Wall Street puppet. Democrats have made it quite clear they don't want or need progressives, so I will vote green. Now, this is important because I'm not necessarily suggesting that all these tweets I'm reading or that Bernie supporters in general are going to flock to Trump en masse. But remember, they don't need all of them. They just need a few of them. Just a few of them. It was 12% in 2016. It's on track, according to polls, to be at least 15% this time around. We'll see what happens. After 4 years of mainstream media rolling out experts every week to talk about President Trump's mental acuity, they're suddenly silent as Joe Biden has difficulty forming complete sentences. And I will even give you one better than that, JD. I will give you one better. It's not even that they're being silent. It's that they're saying, well, I know Joe Biden, something's wrong with him. He might have dementia, but Donald Trump has dementia too. Donald Trump does not have dementia. I did a whole video on this the other day. Donald Trump absolutely does not have dementia. Now, you might not like the things that he says, and that's fair game, but to say that he's in the same place as Joe Biden is an absurd notion. It's absolutely crazy. Why I'm not voting for Joe? He's a Republican with a D next to his name. And I think that those signs pretty much speak for themselves. And obviously this was photoshopped. This was not originally what this said. This was photoshopped. But it makes the point rather clear. The people not getting these people are not getting it. Why I have standards and have integrity. You can't feed us S because the other side has S too. Not happening. Not this time. And I think that, the not this time thing is a sentiment that I'm seeing over and over and over again, that like, you did this to us in 2016. You're not gonna do it to us again. What did W say? Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, like not gonna get fooled again or something like that. And I've seen that from a lot of Bernie supporters who are like, nope, we went down this road in 2016. Since 2015, we've been pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, talking about policy and issues. We've been called every name under the sun, and not once has Blue MAGA offered us anything but vote effing blue. The DNC stands for nothing. Joe Biden stands for who the heck knows. How about this one? Because Democrats need to be taught a lesson. I absolutely agree with that. They feigned outrage about Kavanaugh only to nominate a sexual predator. And I want to point out, Joe Biden hasn't had due process, and I've been pretty clear about my position on this, in that I think everyone who's accused deserves a due process. There deserves to be an investigation. We should always presume innocence before presuming guilt. So I'm not on board with that, but they act like they care about decency, yet nominate a warmonger. There are other reasons to dislike Joe Biden, whether or not you believe the accusations against him. And frankly, I think even if you don't believe the accusations against him, there's still something to be said for the fact that no one has spoken out about it. That they aren't treating him the same way that they treated Trump with his locker room talk, or Kavanaugh, or anyone else. If Joe Biden was a Republican right now, you better believe they would all be screaming about justice for victims and justice for women and all these things, and they're not doing that, and we all know why. Why I'm not voting for Joe Biden can literally trend all day long. There's just many reasons, there's that many reasons not to vote for him. And for all these centrist blue checks, Joe Biden supporters who think Joe Biden and the Democrats are trying to win, I have a bridge to sell you. I 100% agree. And this one tweeted a lot of interesting things. Why I'm voting for Joe, the alternate hashtag, is impossible for me to wrap my head around. Let's start here. If you seriously believe that Joe Biden stands for anything at all, or that he can defeat Donald Trump, please leave a comment as to why you support him. Respondents, crickets, and she says, right. Well, I'm assuming she's a she. I should say they. They say, right. Meanwhile, I scroll through my newsfeed and see a random centrist tweet that says, how would it change things if Michelle Obama was VP or Kamala Harris was VP? Centrists truly don't understand S about anti-establishment fervor in this country. If you don't get that Bernie Sanders supporters, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are in it because Bernie Sanders is an anti-establishment candidate, I don't know what to tell you, man. Joe Biden, you could not have picked a more establishment candidate than Joe Biden. I think you could have made cases for other candidates, I really do, but Joe Biden was the ultimate establishment candidate that you're now trying to sell to people who do not want an establishment candidate. On this note, Bernie voters and Trump voters have a lot in common. They really do. Part of the appeal of Donald Trump is that he is not the establishment candidate. Part of the appeal of Bernie Sanders is that he is not the establishment candidate. Part of the appeal of Donald Trump is they perceive him to be a fighter that is going to have their back. Guess what? Part of the appeal of Bernie Sanders is that they perceive him to be a fighter that is going to have their back. They're the same. They're the same for either side. They're the same. So you can't take someone who is right in the middle and the most traditional establishment candidate that you could have possibly nominated and all of a sudden get rid of the appeal of the anti-establishment thing. But of course, what is the explanation for this hashtag? You say it with me, you all know what it is. Russia, right? Warning, the hashtag why I'm not voting for Joe was started by Russian trolls. That's why it began trending in the super early morning hours in the US, which happens to be the middle of the day in Russia. Or we've got this one, because I'm an immature, selfish, whiny Trump supporter or who pretends to be a Democrat when it suits them or only thinks of others if Bernie is president, or I'm a bot. Yeah, okay, man, okay. But you got some responses to that too. Is this Russia's fault too? Because I heard through the Beevine Russia was to blame for why I'm not voting for Joe is trending. Without a doubt, 100% Russian. Definitely has nothing to do with dementia, sexual assault, corruption, bribery, racism, charisma. What other possible explanation could there be besides Russia? But this was like the ultimate for me. Why I'm not voting for Joe? Literally, he told me not to. So video of a dude who's literally told by Joe Biden himself, just don't vote for me. Again, I'll link this up in the description below if you want to see the audio from this tweeter. Watch the video for yourself, because Joe Biden is literally telling people not to vote for him. Come on, man. The dude doesn't want to win. The DNC doesn't want him to win. And it's so obvious for anyone who's watching this and knows anything like about basic psychology. Like, I mean, come on. But I'll tell you this, man. I really do think that there is an opportunity here to bring over some of those Bernie voters, but even more importantly, to try to heal the divide that exists between Trump supporters and Bernie supporters. Because, like, we can't heal everything all at once, right? And I've been thinking a lot about this. You know, I think there's opportunity, maybe not for these two sides to come together and vote for the same candidate. I'm not necessarily arguing that Trump supporters and Bernie supporters are going to coalesce around Trump and it's going to be rainbows and unicorns and picnics and family gatherings. I'm not saying that. But I think there's opportunity to start to heal some of the animosity between those two groups. So I posted this poll on Twitter yesterday, and it still has a couple hours left, but it already has 6,200 votes, and and the results have been pretty much the same since it started, honestly. What I wanted to know is how many of them would like to heal the political divide with Bernie voters. Now you'll notice I didn't say how many of you think we can convince Bernie voters to vote for Trump. That was not the point of it. It was about healing the political divide, starting to have more rational conversations, starting to come to agreement on, come to some sort of understanding that we have more in common than we do differently. I see a lot of opportunity for that between Bernie voters and Trump voters. I really do. So what I found is that about 60% of people who are voting for Donald Trump, at least if you trust the people who answered this poll, they're saying, yes, let's find ways to heal the political divide. They want this. They want to start making those steps towards each other rather than continuing to take steps away. Now, of course, you've got about 25% who are like, they're all communists and socialists, which, by the way, is absolutely untrue. You do not have to be a communist or a socialist to support Bernie Sanders. There are many other reasons for that. About 13% of people just not sure about what they want, and less than 2% saying that they're not a Trump supporter and they just wanted to see the results of the poll. So I thought this was interesting, and I thought it really said a lot because, listen, man, I'll tell you this too. If you go back and look at some articles, hang on, I'll even get them on the screen. So if you go back and look at some articles, this one from The Atlantic, what Trump supporters and Sanders have in common. This one from NPR, 5 ways Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are more alike than you think. This one from CNBC, Trump and Sanders more alike than you think. These are all from early 2016. Before the media kind of figured out that Donald Trump was going to win and got all angsty, it's fascinating to go back and read stuff like this because they're outlining that these voters actually have a lot of things in common. So if you're a Bernie voter, listen, I'm not asking you, I mean, like, first of all, congratulations if you made it this far in the video. That's a feat unto itself. But I want to say, and this is a general message for Trump voters too, that want to start to heal that divide. It should not be about getting Sanders supporters to vote for Trump. I don't care if you vote for Trump. I really don't. I don't care if you vote for Trump. I don't care if you vote for the Green Party. I don't care if you vote for Vermin Supreme. I don't care if you write in Bernie Sanders. I think that's a viable option. I don't even care if you choose to stay home and just not vote at all. I think that makes a ton of sense. But what I would ask you to consider is, like, what is Joe Biden going to do for you? Does he have anything aligned with where Bernie Sanders was going? Because Joe Biden, to me, seems to want to go back to where Obama was. And that just doesn't make sense to me. You do not have to support Donald Trump to say, no, Joe Biden is not the candidate for me. Joe Biden is the one who the DNC selected. And I think in this case, this is an opportunity to really give a couple of you-know-what fingers to the DNC to say, not again, man, not again. Listen, from my perspective, I would have had a much tougher time choosing between Bernie and Trump than Biden and Trump. I really would have. And I know you guys don't like when I say that, but that is the God's honest truth. There are reasons that I was nervous about voting for Bernie that honestly probably would have kept me ultimately from voting for Bernie, but I could understand that much more than I can understand the DNC nominating someone who is not all there. So, listen, lots of people are on the same page about Joe Biden, and I just don't think this is going to work out the way that the DNC had envisioned when they made this decision.